Jung understood that becoming visible again requires deprogramming decades of sophisticated psychological conditioning that runs deeper than conscious thought. It's embedded in your nervous system, your muscle memory, your automatic responses. Your body literally believes that being seen will result in emotional or psychological attack, because that's what happened every time you tried to exist authentically. This is what Jung called trauma-informed invisibility. Your entire being has been trained to interpret attention as danger, visibility as vulnerability, authenticity as invitation for attack. When someone compliments you, your automatic response isn't gratitude. It's deflection, minimization, or suspicion, because compliments in your past often came with hidden agendas, or were followed by criticism that cut twice as deep. When you're in a group, you probably automatically position yourself at the edges, never in the center, like a shadow that has learned to avoid light. You've become a master of strategic positioning, physically, emotionally, conversationally, always ensuring you have escape routes, always prepared to disappear if things get uncomfortable, always ready to fade into the background if someone more important enters the scene. Breaking this programming requires what Jung termed corrective visibility experiences, deliberately putting yourself in situations where being seen results in positive, safe, affirming outcomes instead of the punishment, ridicule, or abandonment your nervous system expects. You're literally retraining decades of survival conditioning, teaching your body that visibility can be safe, that authenticity can be rewarded, that taking up space doesn't automatically result in attack. Start with micro practices that feel manageable but still trigger that familiar visibility anxiety. Make genuine eye contact with cashiers instead of looking away. Share a real opinion in a safe conversation instead of always asking what others think. Post something authentic on social media instead of just being a professional observer of other people's lives. Say thank you and nothing else when someone compliments you, resisting the urge to deflect or minimize. These might seem like tiny actions, but they're actually revolutionary acts of rebellion against years of programming that taught you to disappear, to minimize, to make yourself as small and unnoticeable as possible. Every time you choose visibility over invisibility, you're defying the psychological terrorists who convinced you that existing authentically was dangerous. Jung made another disturbing discovery about the sophisticated system narcissists use to create and maintain your invisibility. He called it the inverse spotlight effect, a psychological manipulation technique where narcissists don't just demand attention for themselves, they systematically engineer invisibility for everyone else, so their mediocrity appears exceptional by comparison. Your parents, partners, siblings, or other family members didn't accidentally overlook you. They orchestrated your invisibility with the precision of military psychological warfare. Every time they interrupted you mid-sentence, talked over you like you hadn't spoken, changed the subject when you were sharing something important, or gave you one-word responses to your excitement while giving elaborate attention to others, that was deliberate, strategic psychological manipulation designed to make you stop trying to be seen. Jung observed that narcissists have an almost supernatural ability to identify what he called natural luminaries, people with authentic magnetism, emotional intelligence, creative gifts, spiritual depth, and the terrifying ability to make others feel genuinely seen, heard, and valued. These are exactly the people narcissists fear most because they expose the narcissist's emptiness, their performance, their fundamental lack of substance simply by existing authentically. So they don't just ignore you. They deploy what Jung called systematic dimming tactics. They give elaborate, excessive attention to mediocre people while treating your genuine achievements as expected, boring, or somehow flawed. They remember everyone's birthdays, preferences, and milestones except yours. They ask everyone's opinion in family discussions except yours, or they ask you last as an obvious afterthought. They celebrate other people's accomplishments with enthusiasm while greeting your successes with indifference or subtle criticism. This creates what Jung termed manufactured invisibility. You start believing you're naturally forgettable, inherently uninteresting, fundamentally flawed when actually you're being strategically erased by people who are threatened by your authenticity, your depth, your capacity for genuine connection. You're like a naturally beautiful person who's been convinced they're ugly by someone who needs to feel attractive by comparison. The most insidious part of this system is how it makes you complicit in your own invisibility. After years of punishment for visibility, you begin policing yourself, shrinking yourself, editing your personality before you even enter rooms. You become your own invisibility enforcer, doing their work for them even when they're not around. You've internalized their voice so completely that you silence yourself before they even have the chance to silence you. Here's where Jung's work becomes truly revolutionary and life-altering. He discovered that people who've been systematically made invisible often possess what he called compressed charisma. All the natural magnetism, wisdom, emotional intelligence, and authentic presence they were born with, compressed under layers of conditioning, like a diamond formed under impossible pressure. You haven't lost your ability to be seen, to be magnetic, to be captivating. It's been compressed, concentrated, refined by years of being forced underground. Jung's technique for releasing this compressed charisma involves what he termed authentic self-assertion recovery. This isn't about becoming aggressive, demanding, or narcissistic yourself. It's about reclaiming your natural birthright entitlement to exist fully in spaces, to have opinions that matter, to take up your fair share of conversational territory, to be interesting, engaged, and engaging without constantly calculating whether you're being too much. C. The first major breakthrough usually happens when you realize that what you've been calling consideration for others has actually been people-pleasing born from terror. Terror of rejection, abandonment, criticism, or attack. You've been so afraid of being labeled selfish, attention-seeking, or too much that you became too little. So concerned with not offending anyone that you offered nothing of yourself. So worried about taking up too much space that you took up no space at all. Jung understood that true consideration includes considering yourself, your needs, your preferences, your thoughts, your feelings, your right to be seen, heard, valued, and celebrated. Most invisible people have been trained to believe that caring about their own experience is selfish, but Jung proved that self-abandonment isn't virtue. It's psychological suicide, and it serves no one. Start practicing what Jung called unapologetic existence, or stop prefacing every opinion with disclaimers like, I might be wrong, but, or this probably sounds stupid, but. Stop minimizing your achievements with phrases like, it's not that big a deal, or I just got lucky. Stop asking permission to have preferences, to take up space, to exist as a full human being with thoughts, feelings, and experiences that matter simply because they're yours. Jung observed that as invisible people begin practicing visibility, they often experience what he called emergence anxiety, the fear that they're becoming selfish, narcissistic, or too much. This anxiety is actually a healthy sign that you're breaking free from the programming, that you're challenging years of conditioning that taught you to equate any self-assertion with selfishness. The people who made you invisible trained you to believe that any visibility is narcissism, but Jung knew the profound difference between healthy self-expression and pathological attention-seeking. Jung discovered something that will fundamentally change how you see your years of invisibility. People who've been systematically made invisible often develop what he called observer's wisdom. the most profound insights into human nature, the deepest empathy, the most authentic presence, and the most genuine ability to make others feel truly seen and valued. This happens because invisibility forces you to become a student of human behavior, psychology, and emotional dynamics. Your years of invisibility weren't wasted time. They were intensive graduate-level education in human psychology. While others were performing, competing for attention, or lost in narcissistic self-absorption, you were watching, learning, understanding the deeper currents of human interaction. You developed skills that naturally visible people often lack completely. You can read rooms with supernatural intuition. You understand emotional undercurrents that others miss entirely. You know how to make people feel genuinely heard and valued, because you know what it feels like to be overlooked and dismissed. Jung called this the invisible person's advantage. Your forced invisibility created depth, substance, wisdom, and authentic emotional intelligence that can't be faked or performed. Now, when you choose to become visible, you're not seeking empty attention or validation. You have something genuinely meaningful, valuable, and healing to offer the world. The key breakthrough Jung identified is understanding the difference between what he called earned visibility and demanded visibility. Narcissists demand attention through drama, manipulation, emotional terrorism, and performance. People with earned visibility naturally attract positive attention through authenticity, wisdom, genuine care for others, and the rare ability to make people feel truly seen and understood in their presence. You don't need to compete for attention, perform for validation, or manipulate for visibility. You need to simply stop hiding your natural gifts, your authentic personality, your genuine thoughts and feelings, your unique perspective on life. Share your insights that come from years of observation. Express your genuine reactions instead of calculated responses. Take up your fair share of conversational space instead of always being the question asker and listener. Allow people to see your real personality instead of the carefully edited version you think they'll find acceptable. Jung proved that when naturally magnetic people who've been made invisible finally allow themselves to be seen, they don't become attention-seeking or narcissistic. They become healing presences that make everyone around them feel more comfortable being authentic too. Real charisma isn't about dominating conversations or taking up all the oxygen in the room. It's about creating space where everyone can breathe more freely, be more genuine, feel more valued. Jung developed specific, practical exercises for recovering from chronic invisibility programming. First, practice what he called conversational presence reclaiming. Instead of always being the interviewer asking questions about others, practice being the storyteller sharing something meaningful about your own experience. Instead of always playing the supportive listener role, occasionally be the person with something interesting to say, instead of deflecting compliments with self-deprecation or subject changes. Practice saying thank you and allowing the positive attention to exist without immediately redirecting it elsewhere. Second, work on what Jung termed physical space ownership. Invisible people have been trained to take up as little physical space as possible to make themselves literally smaller. Practice standing with your full height instead of slouching or hunching. Sit back fully in chairs instead of perching nervously on edges ready to flee. Make appropriate, confident eye contact instead of always looking away. Use natural gestures when you speak instead of keeping your body language locked down and minimized. Your physical presence should communicate that you have the fundamental right to exist in space. Third, develop what Jung called opinion ownership and expression. You have thoughts, preferences, perspectives, and insights that are valuable, interesting, and worth sharing. Practice expressing them without excessive qualifiers, disclaimers, or apologies. Say, I think this, instead of, I might be wrong, but maybe possibly this could be true. Say, "I prefer this," instead of "I don't care. Whatever everyone else wants is fine." Your thoughts matter simply because they're yours, and you don't need unanimous approval to express them. Fourth, practice what Jung termed positive self-reference recovery. Invisible people have been systematically trained never to mention their own accomplishments, talents, positive experiences, or anything that might be construed as bragging or showing off. Practice sharing genuinely good news about yourself when it's relevant to conversations. Mention your achievements when they naturally fit the discussion. Allow yourself to feel and express pride in your growth, your successes, your progress, without immediately minimizing or dismissing them. Jung documented case after case of people who went from chronic, systematic invisibility to authentic magnetic visibility using these liberation techniques. They consistently describe the transformation as remembering who I was before I learned it was dangerous to be myself. Their entire energy shifted from apologetic to confident, from background to naturally central, from invisible to magnetically authentic. One woman Jung worked with perfectly captured the transformation. "I realized I had been living my entire life in emotional black and white, trying desperately not to be noticed, not to take up space, not to be too much of anything. When I finally started allowing my true colors to show, I discovered I had been beautiful, interesting, and valuable all along. I just hadn't been letting anyone see it because I was terrified of being punished for existing authentically." The people who made you invisible taught you that being seen was dangerous, selfish, inappropriate, or too much. But Jung proved that authentic visibility, being genuinely yourself without constant apology or calculation, actually makes everyone around you feel permission to be more authentic too. When you stop hiding your light, you give others permission to stop hiding theirs. Your journey from systematic invisibility to authentic visibility isn't just personal healing. It's modeling for other invisible souls that they don't have to live in the shadows forever. Every time you choose to be authentically seen instead of strategically hidden, you demonstrate that visibility can be safe, that authenticity can be rewarded, that taking up space doesn't automatically result in attack or abandonment. If you've stayed with me through this entire revelation, something deep inside you is ready to stop being invisible. Jung would say your authentic self is exhausted from hiding and ready to finally be seen, celebrated, and valued for exactly who you truly are. This isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about remembering and reclaiming who you were before the world taught you that existing authentically was dangerous. Your invisibility was never evidence of your inadequacy, your unworthiness, or your lack of value. It was proof of other people's inability to handle your natural light without feeling exposed as frauds. You were made invisible by people who needed you small to feel big, who needed you dim to feel bright, who needed you silent to feel important. But your soul wasn't designed for invisibility. You were meant to be seen, heard, valued, celebrated, and cherished for exactly who you are. The invisible life ends today if you choose it. Start with one brave act of visibility right now. Share this video if it touched something real inside you. Comment below with one authentic thing about yourself you've been afraid to be seen for. Join this community of souls who are choosing visibility over invisibility, authenticity over performance, truth over safety. Remember, becoming visible isn't about seeking attention or validation from others. It's about stopping the self-imposed hiding, the strategic shrinking, the calculated invisibility. It's about existing fully in your own life instead of watching it from the sidelines like a ghost haunting your own existence. Carl Jung devoted his life to understanding the human psyche, and he proved that authentic visibility, being genuinely seen and valued for who you really are, is one of the most profoundly healing experiences a human soul can have. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to take up space in this world without apology. Stop apologizing for existing. Start celebrating it. Your invisible days are over the moment you decide they are. The world desperately needs what you have to offer, but first, you must stop hiding it in the shadows of other people's egos. Be seen, be heard, be authentically, courageously, unapologetically yourself. That's how you stop being invisible forever.